Good morning, friends, and welcome to MSM today. Sorry if the audio is a little bit off. Our mics and such aren't working today, but the show must go on. So today we are in week 3 of a series called Waitlisted. And so we've been talking about if you've ever been waitlisted for something, right? Or just those times that you're maybe waiting for something that was promised, or just waiting in general. Some of you, I know we talked about in MSM in the last couple weeks. Some of you are waiting to drive. Like that's like the next thing. You're like, when can I just drive? So I don't have to ask my parents to go places. Well, you still have some years. So be patient, right? And thank your parents for driving you around everywhere, right? Sometimes they feel like a taxi service. But we're continuing our talk in Waitlisted, and today we're talking about while we're waiting, right? While we're waiting and we think that it's silent, God is listening, right? While we're waiting, God is listening, and we want to talk about a guy in the Bible that you guys know. And our third little plastic sheet here shows a crown, and we said in week 1 that that's for King David. All right, and a quick little synopsis or biography of David, right? So David is first chosen as king. He's chosen as the next king, and then he goes and he defeats Goliath. You guys all know the David and Goliath story, right? This small, very, very, very small shepherd versus a big warrior of Goliath. And he ends up killing Goliath and gives the glory and the credit to God. Then Saul, the previous king, the king that he was going to be replacing, gets very, very jealous and tries to kill David. But David actually goes and hides, and Saul gets very close to finding David, but God wouldn't allow that. Actually, David showed that he was actually right there and he could have hurt Saul. So he cuts off just a little bit of his robe and then scurries away. Right, just to show that he could have, yet he was shown mercy. And then David becomes the king. Right? Amidst all of that, right? So David was named king, and he didn't just immediately become king. There was some waiting there. But while he was waiting, he talked to God. He talked to God when he was lonely. He talked to God when he was surrounded by enemies. He talked to God when he was discouraged, and he talked to God when he was angry and desperate. And this isn't even where David's story ends. Even after he became king, there were so many moments in David's life when he cried out to God, and God heard him every single time. A good amount of the Psalms are written by David. We're going to look at one today. Psalm 57, 1 through 5 says this: "Have mercy on me, my God, have mercy on me. For in you I take refuge. I will take refuge in the shadow of your wings until the disaster has passed. I cry out to God Most High, to God who vindicates me. He sends from heavens and saves me, rebuking those who hotly pursue me. God sends forth his love and his faithfulness. I am in the midst of lions. I am forced to dwell among ravenous beasts, men whose teeth are spears and arrows, whose tongues are sharp swords. Be exalted, O God, above the heavens. Let your glory be over all the earth." Now this is in form of a song, but I don't sing and it's awful, and I don't even know the tune. It'd be terrible. But this is a song that he was crying out to God with. And we see here that he's talking to God. He's actually in a place of not like perfect. Everything's not perfect. Right? Those words that I am forced to dwell among ravenous beasts, men whose teeth are spears and arrows, whose tongues are sharp swords. Are you in a position right now where you're waiting? Are you in a position right now where you just feel like everyone's against you? Have you cried out to God? Have you prayed? Have you tried to talk with God? Have you tried reaching out? Because sometimes, like we talked about, God sends people right? We do God's work. We are invited to do God's work. Look at the people around you, right? But while we're waiting, God is listening. King David had a horrible past, yet he was known as a man after God's own heart. King David had waiting and waiting and waiting, and God stayed faithful to him. King David was a sinner and did a lot of bad things, but yet God stayed faithful. God listens. God listens while you're waiting. So, why are you waiting on God? Are you waiting on God to fulfill a promise? Are you waiting on God to maybe give you more friends? Are you waiting on God to help you to not be as angry? Are you waiting on God to show himself to you? While you're waiting for whatever it is, share your situation with others and share your feelings. Share what you are feeling. Sometimes in this time and age, you don't want to do that because it might seem weak. You can see in the Psalms and everything that David wrote out to God, he cried out to God saying that he was not worthy, that he was sad, mad, angry, all of the above, because it wasn't weak. The weak minds say that you shouldn't share your feelings. The strong ones know how to share their feelings and yet still be rooted in who they are, which is in Christ. While David waited on God, God never stopped listening. And David never stopped praying. So let's keep praying. Because while we're waiting, God is listening to us too. I recommend you to go and read Psalm 66 and Psalm 116 as well. These are crying out to God from David. While we're waiting, God is listening. Put in the intentionality. Talk to him. Talk to others. Love you guys. See ya.